Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I formally declare open this Submissions Committee meeting of the Colac Otway Shire on the 2nd of December 2025. We'll start with the opening prayer. Almighty God, we seek your blessing and guidance in our deliberations on behalf of the people of the Colac Otway Shire. Enable this Council's decisions to be those who contribute to the true welfare and betterment of our community. Amen. I'd like to start this afternoon by acknowledging the traditional custodians and lawmakers of this land, their elders past and present. Please be advised that this meeting is recorded and live streamed with the exception of confidential matters. This includes the public participation sections of meetings. The live stream recordings of this afternoon's meeting will be available on the website as soon as practicable. By participating in open meetings, individuals consent to the use and disclosure of the information they share at the meeting, including any personal and/or sensitive information. I note that all 7 councillors are present. Move on to 3.3, the confirmation of minutes. I propose that we move to confirm the minutes of the Submissions Committee meeting held on the 14th of October 2025. A mover. Councillor Potter. We have a seconder. Councillor McCrickard. We have a motion before us. Councillors will now put it to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Douge, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Howard, Councillor Shrams, carried 7-0. Thanks, councillors. Move on. Are there any declarations of interest? Nope. Now move on to item 4, the verbal submissions from submitters. Council appreciates the community's submissions on today's agenda item and values the effort put into both the written and in-person contributions. Councillors review all submissions thoroughly and find them very useful. Today people can restate or highlight parts of their submissions. I'll now read the names of the registered speakers. Please raise your hand when your name is called. David from the Noodle Canteen. No, just wait. Hang on. I'll tell you. Kevin Whitehead? No. James Judd. See that. John Kerrigan? Rodney Cartwright. David Ferry? Rob McVeigh is online. Thank you. Shelley Fanning? There. Tim Malloy. Thanks. Please note that this committee will hear submissions today, but no decisions will be made at the meeting. A decision on the matter will be made at a later meeting. We'll now move on to item 5.1, submissions to proposed bus parking changes in Murray Street, Colac. We have 5 people who have requested to speak to their submission. I'll now invite David from the Noodle Canteen to come and speak. You only have 5 minutes. If you get to 4 minutes, I'll let you know when you've got a minute to go. Thanks. Oh, sure. Yep, no problem. Thank you. Rod Cartwright.
Mr Mayor, Councillor Schramm, fellow councillors and officers of the Shire, good afternoon. My name is Rod Cartwright. I'm a local resident, or have been a local resident, just moved, and I've been a local businessman in the community for the last 40 years. And I'm here today to offer support and back up to Mr David Dew, the proprietor of the Noodle Canteen in Murray Street, which is the one that's got the buses where they park out the front. And I'm here today to support him in retaining those buses to be able to be parked there. I just wish to ask, does anyone have any objection if I read off notes?
No, happy for you to do it, just
Thank you.
as long as you don't go over time.
That's okay. In 2002, the original owner of the canteen would have, at some stage, applied to council to have these spots taken up for the buses. And I'm not sure exactly what date that would have been, but the officers of the council will probably have that on record. But the bus parks have been there from possibly 2002. And given that they're still there now, that's 23 years that they've been there. And there hasn't been a problem all during that time. So we fail to see how that this could, if the buses are removed, what we can see is it's going to have a serious impact on the viability of David and his family's business. David, in his wisdom, on receiving the notification that this proposal was being put forward, under his own undertaking, he took the initiative to go and do some research with other businesses in the precinct. The precinct itself is well known for a fast food precinct, servicing both local trade and passing through traffic. And as we all know, that it's very, very hard to stop passing traffic to pull up and become patrons of whether it's an a la carte venue or a fast food outlet. The survey that David carried out came back with quite a number of people who gave support. There was 520, in actual fact, signatures he received. And he has also got the signatures of 10 other businesses and the support of those other businesses for the retention of the bus park spots. We do realise that the survey was not a part of council's official survey, but it was an initiative that David took on himself, and I think he should be applauded for that. It just gives us a better understanding as to how the bus spots are valued, not only for his business, but for all those that are surrounding him. I just touched on the point before about all the people driving past on the highway. Well, the fact that the buses stop there is bringing probably 44 people every night that pull up outside those premises looking to be fed. The bus companies can't change the times because it's on their cycle of when they go around the Great Ocean Road and it's on their return trip home. To cut those bus stops out, well, those buses would only have an alternative just to keep driving through. Either stop in Geelong, at the roadhouses on the bypass at the back of Geelong, or whatever. But in this instance, for 23 years, that those traders in that precinct have had the value of those patrons visiting their shops to buy their food. The buses themselves, whilst they don't all come at the one time, they come intermittently, and there's probably no more than 3 buses ever on any given night. There's usually sometimes only 1 or sometimes only 2, and the driver gives the patrons 30 minutes to get off, get their food, get back on the bus so the bus can keep rolling because they're on the timetables. So the buses are not sitting there all day. And don't worry, we do understand that, you know, they do take up space, but then again, that space is bringing 44 people looking for food and drink and beverage or whatever. So it's valuable for those traders, and especially a small family business like David's, the whole viability of it all. Because back in 2010 when David bought his business, he was looking at, he did his research and he thought, well, the viability is there in the passing trade and those buses pulling up out the front. Otherwise, he would not have ever have considered buying it. So that was in his decision making. It helped him formulate the decision to go and purchase the business. And I would suggest that if the time comes, like everyone else in small business, their time comes and they want to sell up and pass on, move on, whatever they want to do, these types of things are very important in the sale of a business. But having said that, on this occasion, it is not for sale. It is very much a business in operation, and I think we should give it all the support to keep it in operation and keep it viable. In conclusion, I just say that centres like this, as I mentioned before, are always trying to hang a rope out there and catch anyone going past and rope them in to come and spend their dollar here. Here we have 44 people, potentially 66 people pulling up every night. And it'd be a shame to cut them off and send them up the road. Also, in conclusion and finalising, it's my strong belief that council should give the backing to this young family and to all the other businesses that rely on those buses pulling up out the front. I think it's crucial. And I think if council's seen to be supporting, it gives them the confidence to keep going, and it gives others the confidence to perhaps invest a little bit of money back into the city. That's all I've got to say, gentlemen and ladies. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rod. Kevin Whitehead, haven't turned up? No. Invite now Mr. James Judd. James. Do you need a hand?
Mr Mayor, will the proposed bus parking facility in Murray Street, Colac, continue to be provided once it's available? Because, or will the facility be abandoned once the council decides to continue the centre strip in Murray Street all the way to Armstrong Street and turn Murray Street in the CBD to two separate one-way streets separated by a centre strip that removes about 1/3 of the total road width? Council has given notice of that intention many years ago, plus it has confirmed by council many times since that it will be done. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Judd. Appreciate it. I now invite Mr. John Kerrigan. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Now, my name's John Dale Kerrigan. You might have heard me from the movie. And the other speaker back there, tell him he's dreaming, I can tell you now. Now, the buses only come in at night time, and there's only one trader there that benefits from the buses. That's the noodle box. They get free food, free drink, and I won't say whatever because I can't. They've got their own bowls and everything, and that's only one trader there if he's talking about 44 people coming off them buses. Most of them go to McDonald's and the rest go to the noodle box. They don't get the buses have approached us 8 times, 9 times now and said, you work with us and we'll send the customers into you. We said, no, sorry, we won't have a part of that. Now, I'm running a business too, just like David. Here's photos what we got to put up with every night. Every night, the buses come in. Every night. They don't come into our shop that's next to the Murray Street Market because we don't pay them, give them kickbacks. That's just not right. Every night, we got to put up with it. Now, since boating, camp and fishing come in, they've taken another 2 parkings from us. All we're asking for is a little space from the residents. Here's our petition. That's in 2 months, there's only been 100 and something signatures. The people that live here in Colac cannot get parking because of the buses. They just take up all the spaces right at dinner time. We're running a business too, just like David's running a business. But he's given kickbacks, to free food, free drink for the bus drivers. So I don't think that's fair. You know, I don't think that's fair. You know, and what else the bus drivers do is they take all their rubbish out of their buses and dump in the bins there, out the front there. And I totally don't think that's fair, you know. And that's what's going on here. So we've had, you know, so much, you know, there's only one trader that benefits. One trader, because he gives kickbacks. That's all I really got to say. You know, we're running a business too,
John,
and paying
I'll
everything.
Just remind you that this is a public forum, and you know, that is broadcast, and you just got to be careful making accusations in public if you can't back them up. That's all. I just thought I'd give you a warning.
That's all right. But I've rang up the bus company and I've asked them, could you park your buses around the corner? I've spoken to Commissioner and the other man. Could you make certain, this has been going on for over a year plus. Can you make provisions for the buses? Because they go to McDonald's, most of the people. But we don't give them free food. So I just want a fair go in my business, and the bus drivers will tell the people, don't go into your shop because they're too slow. Don't eat here. They point out where to go. I've had to throw the bus driver out of the shop because he was, you know, in my own shop. As he was saying, you shouldn't have come in here. It takes too long to eat in this shop. Now, so that's all I really got to say, guys. I just want a fair go, that's all.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, John. Appreciate the submission.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to all the submitters to the proposed bus parking changes in Colac. There's an officer recommendation in the report, councillors. Does anyone wish to move that as a motion? Councillor Hudgell. Anyone wish to second that? Councillor McCrickard. Councillor Hudgell is a mover. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to thank Rod and Mr. Rudd and John for being here today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here and hearing your valuable submissions. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor McCrickard is the seconder. Thanks. Any other councillor wish to speak? No. We have a motion before us, councillors. We'll now put it to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Dadouge, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. Motion is carried 7-0. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 5.2. Planning permit 125-2025-1, 30 Pascoe Street, Apollo Bay, use of the land for the purpose of a restricted recreation facility, a gym. We have 2 people who have requested to speak to their submission. I invite David Ferry. Hopefully I've got your name right, David. Thanks.
Cool, thanks. Good afternoon, councillors and Mayor. Thanks for taking the time. I'd like to thank the opportunity today for speaking. For my intention to open a gym in Apollo Bay at 30 Pascoe Street. The planning application was submitted to change the use from a fun parlour to a gym. My business plan is to involve engaging the teenagers and the youth of Apollo Bay, as well as the men and the women in a, I suppose, more in a boxing skill based, to give teenagers and kids a destination to go after school and school holidays, and who aren't interested in playing football or cricket. As I said, my focus is to engage youth, and there's a lot of media hype around at the moment with the do the crime, do the adult time, and I feel by creating this destination and facility, might help teenagers make a good choice and a bad choice. By coming in and hitting the boxing bag for 15 minutes, could help them reset from maybe going out and stealing a car or doing something that's valuable to the community. Also, passive teenagers can help learn defence, give them self-defence against, and build confidence. There's a lot of discussion also too around men's mental health at the moment, and there's quite a few programs out there funded by the government. There's a Dad Bod Challenge, which runs for 6 weeks, and it gives dads an opportunity to come in, after hours and do a circuit, and then sit down and have a chat to any other dads in the community about anything that might be going on that they could get some ideas from. And also too, I'd like to introduce some self-defence classes. Being a country town, a lot of teenagers go off to university and could be faced with a situation where they're in a vulnerable situation where they might need to learn some kind of self-defence, and being in a smaller community, they don't have the opportunity to get those skills. There's also one other important issue, is that there's a campaign for Jack's Law at the moment. It's about a teenager who died a few years ago in front of a convenience store. He got knifed, and I feel that by developing this project and place, that could give kids the opportunity to learn self-defence. In conclusion, as you know, the council are very pro-development, and I understand the CFA are very concerned about losing their car spaces, which may or may not happen. It is secondary to the development, to the proposal that I've put forward, but I have some suggestions to control the CFA car park, designated and visible signs in front of the spaces and marked on the asphalt. And ways I can support the CFA is putting a sign up in the window of the gym to make members aware that they are for CFA volunteers only. And if they do keep reoffending, I might be able to suspend their membership for a month. And also too, I'd encourage any members to walk or ride their bike to the gym as a part of a warm-up, but also to keep car space free at all times. As you know, my application does state it's only for 10 people at a time, so I'm not looking for a huge amount of car spaces that will be taken up. In summary, as you're all aware, in a week's time, the government is going to put a big ban on social media for teenagers. So I believe this, what I'm proposing today would be a benefit to the community and supporting parents and giving teenagers a place to belong. And the best mental health is social interaction. So I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'll now invite online Rob McVeigh from CFA. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and councillors, and thank you to the Submissions Committee for the opportunity to speak to the objection lodged by the CFA on behalf of the Apollo Bay Fire Brigade to Planning Permit 125-2025-1 30 Pascoe Street, Apollo Bay. As stated, my name is Rob McVeigh, and I appear today in my capacity as a Commander for the Country Fire Authority's District 6, which encompasses the Colac Otway Shire. I'd like to begin by acknowledging and extending sincere gratitude to Council for the recent commitment and provision of 4 dedicated car parking spaces for CFA members on Pascoe Street, Apollo Bay. As the site for the Apollo Bay Fire Station at 28 Pascoe Street does not afford parking for members, this contribution by Council offers an assurance to volunteers that when our community is in need of help, 4 members of the Apollo Bay Fire Brigade will not be unnecessarily delayed in responding fire and rescue appliances due to unavailable parking adjacent to the fire station. Despite erected signage indicating the allocation of these car parks as CFA only, unfortunately, we've already witnessed them being harnessed by unauthorised users. This is not unexpected due to the proximity of the car parks to services and amenities in high demand by both visitors and the local community members. The committee, I'm sure, appreciates that the high demand in the area for parking is compounded during summer, and especially when Apollo Bay is hosting major events. It's also understood by the Apollo Bay Fire Brigade that the availability of local parking may be negatively impacted due to the Moore Street and Pascoe Street roundabout establishment and improvement works. Having reviewed the planning report attached to today's agenda, it's incumbent on the Country Fire Authority to notify Council of the potential unintended consequences of the planning permit being passed without consideration to the impact on the 4 dedicated CFA car parks that are located directly in front of 30 Pascoe Street, Apollo Bay. Since the establishment of the Apollo Bay Fire Brigade in the 1940s, the risk profile of the township continues to diversify and increase, resulting in growing calls for assistance to combat a wide variety of hazards that threaten lives, property, and the environment. This includes structure fires, bushfires, hazardous materials incidents, and cliff rescues. Additionally, under Victoria's State Emergency Management Plan, the Victorian State Road Crash Arrangements identifies Apollo Bay Fire Brigade as a principal provider for road crash events. This responsibility, commitment, and dedication to enhancing patient outcomes for victims of motor vehicle accidents relies upon the efficient and effective access to the Apollo Bay Fire Station, so these CFA members can respond specialist road rescue resources unimpeded to time-critical incidents. In considering granting this planning permit, the Apollo Bay Fire Brigade would welcome continued dialogue and consultation to ensure that dedicated CFA car parks on Pascoe Street can be maintained, relocated, or ideally increased in number to ensure that there's sufficient availability of parking for our first responders. Thank you once again for the opportunity to discuss how the continued commitment to community and goodwill of the Colac Otway Shire supports effective partnerships and delivers initiatives that directly lessen the impact of fires and other emergencies in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate the submission. Councillors, we have a officer recommendation in the report. Does anyone wish to move that as the motion? Councillor Howard, is it to be seconded? Councillor Potter. Councillor Howard as mover. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, we thank the submitters for presenting to Council because it does help with our deliberation, so it's very much appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Seconder.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? No. We have a motion before us. Councillors will now put it to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Dadouche, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. Motion is carried 7-0. We now move on to item 5.3, Planning Permit 121-2024-1, 9 Great Ocean Road, Grey River. We have 2 people registered to speak to their submission. First I invite Shelley Fanning. Thank you.
Good afternoon, councillors, mayor and senior management. My name is Shelley Fanning of Coastal Planning. Some of you might be familiar with me. I am here today representing the owner and occupier of the subject site. Mr. Melzak is in the audience today. He's applied for a replacement dwelling of the existing dwelling. Mr. Melzak's grandfather built the original house back in 1972 and first actually bought the property in the 1950s. The replacement dwelling is still a 3-bedroom home. It's larger than the existing house. However, provides obviously a more modern and comfortable house than what is currently there. As you're aware, the subject site in Grey River includes approximately 12 existing lots that are all in the Rural Conservation Zone. Obviously, it's not quite fit for what is happening there, probably more of an anomaly in the planning scheme. Nevertheless, the current zones are the Rural Conservation Zone. The permit triggers are simply buildings and works. There's an established existing use rights for a dwelling. And obviously there's no third-party appeal rights for the bushfire management overlay or the erosion management overlay. So today I'm really to talk about just the objectors' concerns with the replacement dwelling. And I take it that you've all seen the plans that were circulated that show some cross-sections of some of those overshadowing diagrams. I do have a few other sets with the highlighted version if anyone wanted them. No? Okay.
We can grab them after, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. So the objector argues the replacement dwelling will cause shading to the middle deck of the dwelling at 7 Great Ocean Road and will quite possibly obstruct winter sunshine and natural daylight. As part of responding to the original objection, the permit applicant revised the plans. The amendments included increasing side setback from the south side boundary to the upper floor level from 2 to 3.2 metres, increase in front setback of the upper floor by a further 0.5 metres, upper floor and roof structure ceiling height was lowered by 150 millimetres, and the roof shape was changed from a gable form to a hip, thereby reducing the amount of shadow cast. The circulated elevation shadow diagrams were developed in response to the objector meeting for the purpose of the objector's consideration and were not used as part of the submission to council because they simply didn't have to. The shading angles were produced to demonstrate the shading effect in the middle deck area, as this was expressed by the objectors as their primary concern. There was no requirement in the planning scheme controls for this under the Rural Conservation Zone. It was simply done in good faith and to be a good neighbour. If a res code assessment was required, to measure overshadowing is done at the equinox, not the solstice. The objector has referred to the images in a shape map app as part of the objection. These images are a misrepresentation and appear to be presented for maximum effect without any method for verification. The shadows are represented on the day of the winter solstice rather than a regulatory required as an equinox. The shadows appear to project over the ground floor without obstruction and consideration of the existing built form. In reality, the shadows do not extend over the objector's roof. There is no indication of the input data such as the height and form of the shadow casting structure for verification. The images fail to consider the topography of the land, the nuances with the design response, and are inaccurate. Irrespective, the Rural Conservation Zone provisions do not give the decision maker any ability to consider res code amenity issues. Ordinarily, a dwelling in a residential zone would be required to turn to clause 54, one dwelling on a lot. However, there's nothing in the planning scheme nor clause 54 that gives permission for the decision maker to turn their mind to whether the proposal complies with various standards and objectives relating to overlooking, etc.
Coupled with that, 1 minute, that's all.
1 minute? Clause 65, effect on amenity, can refer to a broad range of matters in different contexts. In this context, clause 65 is not capable of introducing a consideration or assessment which specifically does not apply to an application. There is a case that went to VCAT, Locke versus Macedon Ranges 2018, where this scenario played out, and the tribunal in that case indicated that they had no authority to assume matters that were not within the provisions of the day or in the controls of the day, and they issued a permit. The objectors argue that there would be a material detriment and that the replacement dwelling does not comply with the purpose of the zone, maintaining a rural aspect, even though there is an existing dwelling on the site and all surrounding lots. The lot sizes are larger urban lots and are arguably holistically conflict with the Rural Conservation Zone's provisions generally due to their size. Nonetheless, the existing controls of the day is a Rural Conservation Zone. So the application is only buildings and works for a replacement dwelling and warrants support. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. now invite Tim. Thank you.
Hello. So rural conservation zone, we appreciate that not all criteria will be met, but it's important that a new planning permit will try and fit into the rural conservation zone purposes. So the proposed house design is not staggered to the topography of the land. It's not sympathetic to the land and the character of Grey River. So rural conservation zone purpose number 4, to encourage development and use of land which is consistent with sustainable land management and the capacity practices take into account conservation values and environmental sensitivity to the locality. So the current dwelling is on the north side of the block and it is a fairly humble dwelling. Vinnie, or the applicant, wants to significantly expand that footprint and move it to the south boundary. This wouldn't be such a concern if the building wasn't 8 metres tall, almost 8 metres tall at its highest point. The subsequent shading on the northern boundary will directly impact on native vegetation. There's significant bird life, parrots, bowerbirds, rosellas, black-tailed cockatoos that rely on this area. We're concerned about the equinoxes, but as mentioned, we're more concerned about the winter sun. The data that was gathered was inaccurate because the software wasn't able to do exactly what we asked. So I spent a week there during the winter solstice analysing position and the aspect of where the proposed dwelling was going to be. And I've come to a fairly accurate conclusion that during the winter solstice, we won't get any sun at all until around 9:30 in the morning. It'll be completely blocked by the dwelling. I expressed concern this to Vinnie, and he said, "We live in the Otways. There's no sun, during winter." But that makes it even more imperative because when you do get that beautiful winter sun, that you're able to appreciate, and just sort of taking something away or that something's completely preventable, then that's just unacceptable. If you move the dwelling back further and away from the southern boundary, then that mitigates this. There's some supporting documents of an aerial view of Grey River, and almost all but one house is a setback, almost 8 metres, 18 metres or around that. And importantly, there's not one single dwelling that is on the southern boundary or close to the southern boundary in all 12 allotments. This one's proposing to be. Rural Conservation Zone purpose number 6 is to conserve and enhance cultural significance, character of open, rural, scenic, urban landscapes. So an open scenic landscapes come from being able to look out and around your property. In our case, and in everybody else in the 12 properties of Grey River, it's out to the north west. The proposed dwelling is going to cover about 80% of our living space when we look to our north. We won't see that beautiful landscape, we will see walls and a roof. We've talked to Vinnie extensively about offering suggestions on how to modify this. We spoke about moving away from our northern boundary, which Vinnie said, "Look, I know this is regrettable, but I don't want what's happening to you to happen to me if number 11 builds." And I said, "Well, if everything is just, then you would be able to object to that proposal just like we're objecting to you." Pretty brutal, I thought, from not very neighbourly. We also spoke about the fact that if he wanted recreational space on the northwest, and he'll lose that, but I'll come back to that point in a moment. Dropping the roof pitch down to 10 degrees would bring the height of the dwelling down about 1 metre. We also put in suggestions to bring the laundry from upstairs downstairs, and that would allow for the top story of the building to move back 2.5 metres. And this would significantly open up our northeast aspect of our property. And we did some designs on how that was possible for Vinnie. Vinnie said he's not able to do this because it'll impact his bell rating. He can't move back, but in reality, I looked into it and he can move back a further 8 metres. We acknowledge that there has been modifications made from the original proposal.
Just got 1 minute.
And we believe we're not asking for anything over the top. We're simply asking that the impacts to this proposed dwelling would have our property and the surrounding environment minimised where possible. So to revisit that northwest recreational space, the plan has a large CFA rain tank at the back of the property in that northwest space. So this location does not meet the requirements of the CFA. The requirements state that the tank needs to be within 4 metres of an accessible road, and there's no accessible road at the rear of the property. If this tank was repositioned to the front of the property, it would meet this requirement of being within 4 metres and would also increase that precious northwest recreational space, which would negate some of the lost space if the property was moved away from the southern boundary and away from the front boundary, move the house back a little bit. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks to the submitters. Thanks, councillors. There's an officer report. Officer recommendation in the report. Does anyone wish to move that as a motion? Councillor Hudgell. Does anyone wish to second that? Councillor McCrickard. Councillor Hudgell as the mover.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, once again, I'd just like to thank everyone for taking your time and coming and speaking with us today. As Councillor Howard mentioned, it's really valuable in our decision-making hearing from you, so we really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor. Councillor McCrickard.
No, all good, thanks, Mayor.
Thanks. Any other councillor? No. I just wanted to note, Councillor Howard had to leave for a medical appointment, so he was an apology for that part of the meeting. No right or reply. All good. We have a motion before us. Councillors will now put to a vote. All those in favour: Councillor Potter, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Douche, Councillor McCricker, Councillor Hudgell, Councillor Schramm. Motion is carried 6-0. Thank you, councillors. That concludes the submission committee meeting of the Colac Otway Shire. Thank you to all the submitters. I declare this meeting closed at 3:42 p.m. Thanks.